Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the How Did You Learn to Do That podcast. I'm so excited to have you join me back this week for another amazing episode. I hope you've enjoyed the episodes that we've released so far. And if you have, I would love if you could please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts to help us continue to grow and to bring you more episodes. And also, if you could share with your family and your friends and like us on Instagram, follow us on all our podcast platforms, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. That would be amazing to help us grow and continue to inspire you with these stories that we have. So today we have an amazing guest, Lauren Smith, who will be joining me. Lauren is a entrepreneur who has taken her career and has taken her dreams and created it into a reality. Lauren's a passionate event planner, connect creating expert, and a lover of all things events and travel. Lauren helps busy entrepreneurs create in-person connections with their online community so they can strengthen their relationships, provide incredible value, and turn their community into raving fans. She has over 10 years of experience in event planning, working with Canada's largest financial institutions. Lauren brings countless unique and innovative ideas and an impressive toolbox of skills to the table for her clients. Spanning from an unmatched ability to pivot on the spot to killer negotiation skills and a creative ability to think outside the box. She's been dubbed the future of the events industry by Meetings and Incentive Travel magazine, and she was featured in CMP magazine's Women of Influence issue. Lauren's signature approach to the planning process and stress-free execution puts her clients at ease with every step of the process. Lauren's community loves her because of her ability to think outside the box, create true and authentic connection, and truly go above and beyond to create a wow factor experience that helps turn their attendees into raving fans. So Lauren is an amazing entrepreneur. She shares her tips and advice on brands and partnerships and event planning and all things around that. And I'm so excited to have her join me today to share her story of how she got started, what inspires her, and how she manages and handles challenges that she faces in life and in business, and how she maintains a positive mindset and creates a non-negotiable schedule for herself every single day. So I'm excited to have her on, so stay tuned, and she'll be on in just a moment. Okay, hi everyone. I'd like to introduce and welcome Lauren to the podcast. Lauren, I met through doing the Vancity Business Babes or the Business Babes Collective Action Takers Club, and you met Danielle a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and so this is Lauren, Danielle's business partner, and Lauren also manages the Toronto chapter of the Business Babes Collective, and so I'm so excited to have her on to share her story and her journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait to jump in, chat all things journey, and actually chat the story about how Danielle and I met. So it's actually a pretty serendipitous story. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome, an awesome story. So I'll just pass the mic over to you and just ask you, how did you begin to learn that this is the journey you wanted to take and this is the business you wanted to create? And then how did you even get onto this journey and decide that this is what's right for you and this is what feels best for you? And I know from watching you on Instagram and following along that this is definitely something that brings passion to you and you just absolutely love what you do. So how did you find that? And how do you continue to live that every day?
That's a good question. So growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur. So I grew up knowing what that life was like, the time freedom, the flexibility, the creativity, the ability to really do what you want when you want because you're your own boss. But I also saw the stressful sides of it. I saw the late nights. I saw the anxiety and the stress and all that type of stuff. And I realized from a very young age that in order to get this crazy life that I had envisioned for myself, I couldn't get that working for somebody else. On top of my dad used to tell all of us, so there was 4 kids in my family, and he used to say to us growing up, I don't care what you do for a career. I don't care what industry you're in. I just want you to do it for yourself. So if you want to be a garbage man, great. But I want you to own your own company. I want you to be the boss. And I want you to really see what that whole experience is like. I don't want you to settle for just working to create someone else's dream. And so that was instilled in us from a very young age, which at the time was quite stressful. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to be so passionate about that I can actually run my own business. And and all of that, like obviously self-doubt that goes through your mind. But I always knew in the back of my mind that I didn't want to work for anybody else. And I, not that I don't take direction well, because I take direction really well, but I don't like being told no. And I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs don't like to hear. It's not a no, it's a how can we. So I think being your own boss, when someone tells me no, I'm like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to show you that we can. And I think it's not just to be stubborn, but it's to share the possibilities of, why is it no? Like, why are you telling me I can't do it? Is it because it's never been done before? If it's never been done before, why don't I jump in and do it? So it's kind of the passion between what my dad instilled in us growing up, the ability to want to change the world and change the way that people look at things. And then obviously I love the time freedom, the flexibility. I have a very chaotic life. I have a dog and I travel a lot and I have a sick dad. So I always have to be able to just drop what I'm doing and help or step in or do something that was not on my agenda for the day. And I don't think I would be able to have that if I wasn't self-employed and I wasn't running my own business. So that's number one. And then I think, how do I stay passionate and still doing it all the time? Every day is different for me. No day looks the same. It's not a mundane job where I'm literally following the exact same schedule and agenda every day. So that in itself is super exciting. Plus, I love travel. I love people and I love helping people, and it kind of like molds them both together. So it's kind of easy when you love what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I love what you said. And I can attest to, not liking to be told no. But, asking the question like, okay, if we can't do it right now, how can we figure it out?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's so true, that sometimes when you are working for somebody else, that you just have to take the no and kind of move on. And, but when you're running your own business, it's, you can figure that out for yourself. And I love that. And I think that's so true. And yeah, and so how did you decide that event planning was the industry that you wanted to get into? And I know you just started a travel agency as well. So how did you decide that these were the two that really pulled at your heartstrings?
So that is also quite a convoluted story. So when it kind of goes back to the conversation with my dad. When I was in high school, we were picking what college or university or program I wanted to do. And he always wanted us to have a business background. He, again, didn't care what we did. He's like, if you want to go and be an accountant, that's cool. But I want you to drop down and have a business background, because I want you to understand the entrepreneurial life. And if it's not for you, that's fine. But I need you to go through that journey. And so we were trying to figure out something that was creative and social and something that I already loved doing. And I used to love throwing parties and hanging around people, and traveling has always been, we've always traveled as a family. So that's always just like been part of who I am. And so I picked event planning and I was like, yeah, why not? Like, I'm probably going to hate it, but whatever, we'll give it a shot. So I actually went to school for event management. And then when I graduated, I hated my program so much. The teachers would tell us not to dream big. We learned things like photography, which is a great skill to have, but not something that an event planner needs to have, because we're going to hire a photographer. So there was a huge disconnect in the course and what I wanted to do with my life. So when I left school, I was like, I am never being an event planner. That is so not for me. I'm not into that. Like, no, thank you. So I went and did like promo modeling, like, when you're at like a festival and someone's handing out like free deodorant, or you're sampling free food, or any of that type of stuff, where it's just like people handing out free stuff. That's what I did for a couple of years. And then I happened to get a job in the financial industry doing the events for a national company. And that's when it kind of hit home for me, like, okay, this is what event planning is. And this is the type of industry I can love. And then it just clicked. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. And then it just clicked into it being this thing that I loved and that I wanted to continue doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
kind of how it stuck with me. And then obviously the travel has always been part of who I am. And something I wanted to explore. And then a lot of my clients do travel retreats, and it just kind of became this thing that made sense.
Yeah, I think that that's amazing. And I used to work with somebody who was an event planner also, and 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 similarly to what you said, like she just absolutely loved the
Mhm.
putting it all together and then seeing the reactions of people walking through the door. And
Mhm.
and she would always tell me about all these things that she was doing, and I thought it was interesting. And I love what you said, especially in your bio about having turning attendees into raving fans. I think that that's amazing,
Mhm.
because whenever as employees you go to these events, and it is an employee morale thing as well. And I think that
Mhm.
having these events really pumps you up for continuing your work and motivating you. And I think that's amazing that you do that. And
Mhm.
I also think it's amazing that you took what you were taught or told at the event management school, and you reflected upon that and realized that that doesn't align with what you believe.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people sometimes get stuck, based on what the instructors will say, and they'll get kind of like stuck in that realm of, okay, this is all I can do. But I love that you dreamed big and continue to persevere. I think that's inspiring.
It's been a lot of fun, and I love the reason I love events is because I love creating something, whether it's an experience, an event, a travel, whatever it is, that leaves an impact on people. So I remember when I was working in the financial industry, I would do really goofy things, or I would bring a lot of my personality into the event that would create this experience for people where they're like, I know this is a Lauren event because it has this touch, or I love going to these events because Lauren's going to be the person on the dance floor being goofy and having fun. And I really created this like community around me of people that loved, they were raving fans of what I was putting out there from an event perspective. And I remember when I left the industry, I almost felt like I left a part of who I was, because I had to remake myself in a brand new industry. And I had all my little team of raving fans over here, and I wasn't working with them anymore. So it was really difficult for me to detach myself from being an event planner in the financial industry to being an event planner in general, because so much of who I was tied to the experiences that I had there. But it's actually really funny because now I've had so many people reach out to me from that past life, which I haven't been in that industry for, I think, like 2.5 years. And so many people still say, we miss you so much at events. It's just not the same without you. We miss seeing your emails pop in our inbox. Like,
Aw.
for it to be 2.5 years later and still get those responses, I know that I did what I love doing. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Validation for all the work and the hard work you do and everything you did there, and the fact that you missed there. And I think that's amazing. And what made you actually decide to move away from that, if that was something that you absolutely loved? And how did you find the courage to do that? Because I know a lot of people, when once they're loving something and they've built that for themselves, to have to go and then, like you said, build yourself from scratch again, it's there's fear behind that, or people don't have the courage to do that. So how did you find the courage to do that, and why did you decide to move?
Yeah, so in the company I was working for, I loved my role. I loved what I was doing. I had the budgets I wanted to work with. I was traveling the world. I loved some of the people I worked with. My mentor he's still one of my great friends, and being a part of something special to me meant the world. But the work environment was very toxic, and it wasn't something that I aligned with, and it wasn't something, when I reflected on it, it wasn't an experience that I wanted for myself. So if I took myself out of the situation, and I always said, what would I tell my best friend to do? Why wasn't I taking my own advice? Why was I putting up with things less than what I was deserving of? And in what world did I think that that treatment was okay? And so when it was time to leave, I called Danielle and I was like, Danielle, I think I want to quit my job and completely go out on my own. I think it's time for me to just jump. Like, her and I had these conversations for years. But I was always too scared. I had this security. I was making really good money. I was working in an industry that wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I was being promoted like every year to these crazy roles, and it felt good, and it felt like the work I was doing was being paid off. And I remember she said to me on the phone one day, she said, listen, Lauren, if you're calling me to tell you not to do it, you've called the wrong person. And I was like, okay. So I am quitting my job tomorrow. And I literally went in the next day and I was like, I just don't think this is for me. I think I need to go, because I had transitioned from that company to work at one of the big 5 banks. And I was there for about 5 months. It was a transition role for me. I needed to get out of that old company, and this was like the safest way that I could figure out how.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, I'm done with corporate, especially going like banking, which I loved my team. I still respect the crap out of them. They are such an incredible group of people, but the role in itself it just didn't align with me. So I
Yeah.
went and worked actually for a different third party event planning company who are still really good friends of mine. Like I'm going to her baby shower this weekend, and it was a great community and a great feeling. I was doing what I loved, but I
Yeah.
was still lacking that my own boss. I can run my own brand. I can make my own decisions. And I couldn't do that for someone else's brand, which I didn't expect to be able to. And I wouldn't want someone to come work for me to like change my whole company around. So it was about a year ago in May, after our first Toronto Business Babes conference, that I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can finally trust myself enough to just do it. And yeah, I just literally called her and I was like, I love you, but this just isn't working for me. Like I want to be able to follow my passion and be my own boss and make my own crazy decisions and open a travel agency and not be told no or have restrictions. And
Yeah.
so I jumped, and it's been the craziest year of my life.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And that we can, we can talk about how you met Danielle actually, and how I know you did a big move from Toronto to Vancouver, and it'd be interesting to know what made you want to make that big move, because like I mentioned, there's a lot of fear in a lot of people for making any sort of change,
Mhm.
period. And especially with COVID now, people have had a lot of fear about changing the way they shop, changing the fact that they
Yeah.
can't just go to the store and go home, and there's a lot more prep required, and then cleaning afterwards, and and even those little small things. But to switch jobs and then also to move across the country, those are two
Yeah.
major changes, and I'm just always in awe of anyone that does that, and I think it's so special. And actually, my cousin's going to get married on Sunday and is moving from here to Toronto, and
Oh,
um, and she made that decision in a week, and I was just like, this is insane. Like,
wow.
I'm always so enamored and so inspired by people that are just so sure of what they want, and they make that leap, and they overcome those fears and just do it. I think that
Mhm.
I always am so inspired by that. So what made you want to move to Vancouver?
Oh, I love this question because it makes me really reflect back on my life. So my mom is from Vancouver. She was born and raised there, so I have family out there.
Oh,
And we grew up going every couple years to go visit my uncle and my aunt and my cousin, and kind of obviously explore the world from that perspective. And I remember growing up saying, I want to be a marine biologist and I'm going to go to UBC. Like, what kid knows what university they're going to go to? But I was so sure that I was going to end up in Vancouver. And then life happened. I obviously did not become a marine biologist because I suck at science, but I loved animals. And so I needed to figure out how I could explore that love for animals that didn't involve jumping in the ocean and needing to know science. So I stayed in Toronto. Life happened here. I went to college, I graduated, and then my dad took a stroke when I had just graduated college, like that fall. So life stopped. We became caregivers for him. All of the hopes and dreams were gone for the immediate moment, and our focus was my dad. So for the next 4 years, we stayed at home. We nursed him back to health. We did the physio. We did all the things, and I really put my life on hold. I got this big corporate job during that time, but my focus was really him. I
mhm.
stayed living with my parents. We really just like came together as a family to support my dad in his recovery. And then I hit 25 and the itch wasn't going away. The itch had come back stronger than ever. And I was like, okay, if I don't do it now, I won't ever do it. Because if I get married and settle down, I'm not going to just uproot my whole life and move out west. I was single at the time, living downtown Toronto. The corporate head office of the company I worked for was in Vancouver too. So it was a very seamless transition for me. And I remember telling my mom in August, I was like, I'm going to move next spring. It's like probably May, June, maybe July. Like we have about a year before I make the decision because I wanted to make sure it was the right decision. I ended up moving in February because I was like, I just couldn't wait to get out there. I needed to go. I packed my bags in my car and drove across the country with my brother and just did it. And I didn't look back. I knew that it was where I wanted to be. Vancouver is still my happy place. Whistler's like one of my favorite places in the world.
Mhm.
I have that West Coast soul. I'm very like chill and laid back. I love the beach. I love the mountains. I love hiking. I love the lifestyle that Vancouver
Yeah.
gives. But home is where my family is. And with my dad being sick, you don't get those opportunities to be around them forever. So it was time to come home. I had also met, um, I can tell that story later, but when I first moved out to Vancouver, I went on Meetup because I was like, I don't have any friends in Vancouver. I had the people I worked with, but I didn't have like a core group of like girlfriends that I could go for coffee with or drinks with and just like figure out who I was out west. So I went on Meetup and I saw Van City Business Babes and I went to one of their events. I think it was like a year in that they had started the company, and I met Danielle and I was like, "Oh my god, this girl is exactly who I want to be friends with and the type of people I want in my life." So I asked her for a coffee, excuse me, and she said yes, and I was like so nervous because I'm how do you meet friends as an adult? It's super awkward. Like super awkward.
Yeah.
We went for coffee and then the rest is history. I lived out there for 2 years and we hung out all the time. We had coffee lunches. We would meet up before I had to go into the office for coffee and just like chat business and chat life. And she became one of my closest friends out there. So when it was time to move back to Toronto, I was like, girl, we need to start the Toronto chapter of Van City. And she had already, I think, expanded into San Diego. So it was a really easy transition into Toronto. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a long story.
That's amazing. I think that, yeah, that just inspires me even more than I was already inspired by you, because having to leave your family, and move, and especially at a time like you said you were a caregiver for your dad, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of inspiration, and I was a caregiver for my mom. She also had an illness right before I got married, but I remember delaying like getting married for like 2 years because I was like, I can't leave her. I can't leave her. Like I have to, even though we're in the same city, which now I'm like, this is ridiculous. But at the time I was like, oh, I have to be home 24 hours a day. I need to watch over her. I need to make sure she's okay. And
Yeah,
then finally my husband said, like, at some point, like you need to live your life for yourself and not, continue to be your mom's caregiver. And I said, that's so true. And so I just like put, my faith in the universe, and I got married and I moved out, and, we moved to downtown Vancouver, which my mom lives in Langley. So that's like an hour commute.
yeah,
And we lived there and everything was fine, and my sister
mhm,
stepped up and she took care of things and just everything worked out. And I remember thinking about recently about how scared I was of doing that, just, moving
mhm.
out. And then how after I did it, just everything seemed to work out. Everything was fine, and everything is
Yeah,
still fine now. And my mom even laughs that, like, I don't need you to be here all the
yeah,
time, and all of that. But I think that's inspiring what you said, and the fact that you moved and you drove across country, and meeting friends as an adult is so difficult.
mhm,
I When I had my daughter, I was so excited because I was like, I have an excuse to make friends. Like, like I can go to these play dates as a, trying to socialize my daughter, which I was, but I was also trying to build friends. And I
yeah,
remember my sister asked me like, how did you make so many friends? I'm trying to make new friends too. And we've grown up here, and she just, wanted new friends. And I told her about all the apps. I told her about Meetup, and Bumble now
mhm,
has a Bumble BFF. Uh,
yeah,
I told her to go on there, and she was, but she's like, I just don't feel like messaging anymore because I feel like people just like, I'm so nervous and I don't know what to
yeah.
say. And it's awkward, like
It
you
is
said.
awkward.
But yeah, I think it's so important to continue to make friends even as an adult. Um, and because a lot of people, and my mom, I actually say this to my mom, is she's lonely and she's trying to build a group around her. And I was telling her, because she's like, I don't want to bother people. And I said, everybody doesn't wants to be bothered, but doesn't want to bother. But everybody's feeling lonely these days. And I said, everybody wants to have someone to talk to and hang out with, and just do it. And you'll realize that people are looking for the same thing as you're looking for. And I think um, I think what you shared totally resonates with that. And taking the leap of faith and asking Danielle for a coffee, and then having Danielle be the one you call when you're about to quit your job, it just speaks volumes about how much that courage and that leap of faith really has inspired you, and will inspire lots of other people listening to do that as well.
No, I hope so. Looking back now, I think like, oh my God, I did that. Like that is terrifying. I don't know where the courage came from, but in the moment, I was so sure that that's where I needed to be that I just went with it. And I don't ever like, I go with my gut instinct. So if something feels right, I do it. And if something feels wrong, I don't. And it's served me well. Um, but yeah, looking back, I still have my like, okay, like you moved across the country with nothing but the stuff in your car. Okay, that's a story to tell. So yeah, I'm proud of it, but it did take a lot in my belly to make me want to go.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. And I was actually talking to Isabella, who on Instagram is the Cake Mama, a couple last week actually, and she uprooted her family from the Lower Mainland in BC to the Okanagan in BC, and they have nobody. They were just there visiting one summer and looked around and realized how much they loved it up there.
Mhm.
And within a couple months or a year, I believe, her whole family, her husband and their three kids, they just uprooted and moved, and they know no one in the Okanagan. And I was just telling her, I was like, that's so inspiring, because that's what my husband and I have been thinking about this for so long, to just uproot and go live somewhere where life's little bit slower. And now with COVID and both of us working from home, and me doing this entrepreneur journey, we could move anywhere. And
Yeah,
but I'm too scared. I'm like, no, my family, like I can't leave my
yeah.
family and friends and move completely somewhere else, and
But
all
you
that.
could do Langley, like you could go out that way.
We are in Langley.
Oh, you are. Oh, you're
Yeah,
not downtown anymore?
now we're in Langley. No, we were in Langley, but then we bought and moved out to. We were in downtown Vancouver, but we moved out to Langley, and I love
Oh,
it here. I absolutely love it here, but it's still high cost of living, and it's
yeah.
expensive, and it
When I
is.
lived out there, I lived in Langley.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it was fun.
awesome. Yeah, but still, it's building, and it's getting up there, and it's becoming a
Mhm.
big city.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
cool.
So how, now that you've um, taken this leap into entrepreneurship full time, and continue to reach all your goals and live this life for yourself and create this life for yourself, what are the biggest pieces of advice you would give someone that is about to think about doing this, or has just made the leap and into a new world where they're building something for themselves? What are the big pieces of advice you would give to somebody to reassure them, or even somebody that just wants to move across the country, to see where it takes them?
I think if you overthink it, you won't do it. So you kind of just got to do it. I always say when someone says, when's the right time to quit a job? The first second you think that you want to. I think if you hold on to something for too long, you'll get nervous, or you'll talk yourself out of it, or you'll stay in a situation that's not great for you. And the second you think that you want to get out, or you want to go into it, or you want to do something, you need to explore that feeling. You can't just like push that feeling away. Um, and this is going to be terrible advice because everyone gives the opposite, but I didn't have savings. I didn't have any backup plan. I just went full in on myself. And betting on yourself is the number one person you can bet on. And you'll never let yourself down. So if you know that you need to make rent, you'll find a way to make rent because you're going to believe in yourself. And I think that too many people don't believe in themselves, and they think, well, I can't do it because of this, and I can't because of this. But what if you can? Like, what if it does work out? What if you do have this beautiful life that you want to create? So I would say jump before you're ready, and don't be the one to hold yourself back. Like, there's going to be plenty of people in your life that tell you not to do it, or tell you you're crazy. Or I still have people telling me like, you should get a full-time job, or you should have a backup plan. And it's like, no, this is my backup plan. I know that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And why why did why do I need to doubt myself if I have so many people around me doubting me? You can't doubt yourself. So that would be my number one piece of advice: is jump before you're ready, and don't doubt yourself, because you'll have enough people doing it for you.
I completely agree. I think that for me, I work in government, so when I told my mom and my dad that I wanted to move into entrepreneurship full time, they both looked at me like, and we're immigrants, so they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Like, you got a job in the government and you're set for life. Like, what are you doing? It's like, no,
Yeah.
like, I need to like have something for myself. And like you said, they're like, okay, well, just keep your job full time and do this on the side. You don't have to do it full time. And I said, no, this is what I want to do. And like you said, it's just so many people around you just doubt you, and it comes from their own sense of fear, and insecurities and unknown and the uncertainties, and they're just not sure how to what it'll become and what how it'll turn out. But when you believe in yourself, then you can achieve that for yourself.
100%. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's fun. I think I have friends that are not entrepreneurs and they just don't get it. And then I have friends that are entrepreneurs and they're like the number one cheering me on the sideline. They're like, "You've got this." And it is a different mindset for sure, 100%. So the other thing would be surround yourself with people with the same mindset. If you're going to go to advice from people that don't get what you're trying to do, they're always going to tell you no. They're always going to give you reasons why it's not possible. Whereas if you go to your friends that have done it or your friends that are on that journey with you, they'll be the ones cheering you on and saying like, "Don't you dare quit. I'm here beside you, or we're going to make this successful for you," or all the
Yeah.
things that you need to hear when you're having a day.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true that you so yeah, make sure you surround yourself with the right people. And I know I've done that where I've asked advice from, my friends that are not entrepreneurs, and the advice was, not aligned with what I wanted to do. And then when you do go to people that have done this and they give you that advice or those little nuggets of information that just become so golden for moving you forward, it's so true that you need to surround yourself with the right people and go to the right kind of supports and communities, mentors around you to help you tackle the challenges that you have. And so that takes me to my next question. When it gets difficult and when things get challenging, and I know with COVID and being an event planner, that was a huge challenge for you because, you're not putting on in-person events, anymore, and maybe for not for a long time, but how do you manage to self-reflect and realign yourself to make sure that you are aligned with yourself and your purpose and what your goals are, and maintain a positive mindset in the face of adversity or uncertainties or challenges that you
Mhm.
face?
First of all, I think the misconception that entrepreneurs are always happy is just bullshit. We're
Yeah.
not. It's hard. Um, I saw a quote yesterday. One of my favorite entrepreneurs to follow, she was posting a story and she's like, "Listen, guys, like I want to be honest with you guys. Today was a tough day. I could not get client work done. I have the worst headache. I'm feeling all these things. And I'm not only going to share the days when I'm drinking a matcha latte on my favorite patio, like I'm going to share the days it sucks." And I think so many people glamorize this entrepreneur journey and they think that it's this 95% of the time it's this beautiful epic journey, and it's just not. Like
No.
that's not the reality. It is so difficult and most days are hard. And this quote that I read yesterday that said, the like caption was, "Is entrepreneurship hard?" And then it was question, if it was easy, or answer, sorry, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And
Yeah.
I had that moment where I was just like, okay, I'm not the only one in the world having a bad day right now. I'm not the only one in the world whose life feels a little bit chaotic and things are going wrong for me. And my to-do list is so long and I'm feeling like I'm letting everyone in my life down. And you have those days where you're just like, oh my God, I don't know if I can get through. I'm throwing in the towel. I think I'm just gonna like do do the full-time job thing. But you have to come back to why you're doing it. Is it the time freedom? Is it you genuinely love what you do? Is it you want to support people and take a minute? Like I used to be so bad at putting self-care into my day. I actually, my friend Meg owns a self-care company and she does her self-care Sundays where every Sunday we map out what our self-care is going to look like for the week. So I will map out like right before this, I meditated because I had that blocked into my calendar. I knew ahead of time that I was going to need all the energy I had to give to you in this interview. So I had to schedule that time out. And I think taking that time and giving yourself a hot minute to just relax is super important. And then I self reflect every day when I go to bed. Did I show up as the best version of me that I could have today? What could I have done better? I have no problem saying to someone like, "Hey, I'm so sorry I didn't show up as the best version of myself." There's no excuse. I just want to acknowledge that I should have been better. And not enough people do that. And I think like why not? But yeah, it's hard. I don't think that enough people talk about the hard times. They talk about it being this like amazing glamour life when it's really not.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It's very difficult. And I just said this recently on an episode that when you do have a full-time job, you have like this business structure there for you. You have a desk, you have a chair if you're an office worker, and then you just show up, and that's your job, is just to show up with your body and your brain and do the work. But as an entrepreneur, you also have to show up with your body and your brain, but now you also have to build that structure. You have to like, metaphorically build the desk and build a chair and build, this structure around yourself, and sometimes you're doing the work, but you don't really have a desk to work on. You don't have a structure, and you
Mhm.
build that at the same time. And it's just like, it's very challenging. And yeah, it's tough. And like you said, and there seems to be a theme that's been happening in the past couple of episodes of the why. You always have to know your why. You have to be very
Mhm.
strong in understanding your why and going back to it. And and I know recently I actually had, and because I'm starting as an entrepreneur, any opportunities that come my way, I look into them. And I had someone offer me an opportunity, and I had to look at it, and then I created, and because I come from a corporate public health background, before I did this podcast, I decided to develop a strategic plan, and and I have it mapped out, and my
Which is
mission,
awesome.
my vision, all my goals, and all objectives, and that's kind of how I do things for my 9 to 5 job anyway. But so I did it for the podcast, and then I had to actually pull that out, and it's been 5 months since I wrote that, and I had to look at that opportunity and look at my strategic plan, and I realized it just didn't work, and it just wasn't
Mhm.
for me, and it wasn't why I started this, and it just wasn't going to work. So I had to say no, but I felt that that was really hard for me because as a
Yeah.
new, entrepreneur, I want to take every opportunity I can, but sometimes in that one specifically, I was like, if I take that opportunity, it just will go so far away from why I started this and my why and my purpose, my
Yeah.
intention, that I'll get lost in that world. And I think that what you said is so true. You have to know your why so you can go back to it and
Mhm.
understand, why are you here and what are you doing. And I really love that you said that you acknowledge when you're not showing up as your best self. I think that's
Mhm.
really good because I know my husband probably gets the brunt of it, but I don't show, at the end of a long day, I don't show up as my best self to him.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm actually going to take that advice and start saying that to him.
Well, yeah, try it and let me know. It definitely has helped with a lot of relationships. Or I'll just say like if I have like friends texting me, I'm like, listen, I acknowledge I've received this. I just don't have capacity right now to like give you the attention you deserve. Can I message you back tomorrow? And they're like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, can I help you? And it's like being upfront about that, it doesn't give them the opportunity to be like, oh, she was such a bitch to me. It's like, well, no, she was upfront about the fact that she literally didn't have capacity.
Yeah.
But it's also funny too, because a lot of people say, oh my God, like as an event planner, how did you survive COVID? COVID actually wiped out a lot of my friends that have event planning businesses. But when you just explained it, you literally just nailed, like you put the nail in the coffin with, you have to basically build with no debt. And that's what I was doing. So up until COVID, I felt very grateful that I had a full client roster. My business was cruising. I was doing retreats in Bali and all over the States, and life was great. Like, I was so happy with my clients, but there was no system, there was no foundation, there was nothing that I was leaning my business on. It was like I was just kind of doing, and life was happening around me. And COVID actually gave me the chance to build those systems and build the desk and build the chair and build all of that behind the scenes. So now when I take on a client, it's like this super easy transition. We know when it's onboarded. And Nicole is my right hand. I now have an employee that works with me, and she's freaking incredible. Like, I didn't have that before COVID. I didn't have the capacity to even look at that before COVID. So now that COVID has given me the time to kind of sit back and restructure my entire company, it's been for the better for me. And it's actually been really cool for a lot of my clients too, to sit back and say like, okay, we were doing events just because we felt like we had to. Let's take a pause and let's see what this looks like in 12, 24. I'm planning with clients right now for 2023 because they really want to take the time to like figure out what they want. And it's been such a blessing for not just me, but a ton of my clients as well. So it's all how you look at it, right? You can say, oh my God, I can't host events and I can't have that be a revenue stream right now. COVID ruined me, blah, blah, blah. Or you could say, you know what? COVID actually gave me the chance to figure out what type of event I want to plan and take 2 years to plan it so that we can have payment plans and more people can come. And it's just how you frame your mind. I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit here and be negative all the time because there's not much to be negative about. Obviously, like the world, there's a lot going on in the world, but when you look at it from like your business perspective, like what can you do in the situation to make it better? What can you take out of the situation and flip it? What's negative? How can you make that a positive?
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think just being able to shift your mindset and shift what, is happening and be able to look about how, like you said, not being able to say no, but like how can we do this and how can we move this and shift this? And I think it's amazing. And I think that, as much as technology has come far, I feel like a lot of people were not utilizing it at its full capacity. But I feel like in the last since COVID hit, you kind of have to use technology. And, for myself, being, a government worker in the day, I've noticed that, before it was like work from home was a no because we didn't have the ability, the infrastructure, all these reasons. But now, the consensus is that everyone's working from home for the foreseeable 2 years, and I
Yeah.
was telling my husband last night, I was like, it's so funny that we're like, no, 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 no. And now it's like, yes, please do not come back to the office,
Yeah.
stay home, don't come here. And I was just saying that like, that is like such a shift, and it's such a shift in the way we work and how work is done too. And the opportunities now for people to actually be able to work and have that balanced lifestyle, and be able to manage their days. And for me personally, being an entrepreneur, my biggest why was time freedom. I just wanted the time. Like you said, your dad was an entrepreneur, so he was home and you got to spend time with him. And even though he worked long days, but you still got to see him and he was present. And that's what I want for my family, is that I want to be there and I want to be present. And I don't want to have to be away for 9 to 10 hours a day and come home at the end of the day exhausted and, do the bare minimum to go to bed to do it again tomorrow. So for
Yeah.
me, my why is time. Like I just wanted time. And I think that, whether you're an employee or you're becoming an entrepreneur, this is a time and an opportunity to build your day the way you want it to be built. And I love that
Yeah.
you schedule in time for self-care. And I think that's so important to do. And for me personally, I just try to get up before my daughter gets up, so I get that
Yeah.
time to myself, and it's made
Yeah.
such a big difference. And I think I mentioned to you that last night I saw my friend, and she's really struggling with COVID, and she was really struggling with managing her anxieties and just finding time alone, because she has her partner and they live together, but she felt like become codependent with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I told her, I said, get up before he gets up and just go for a walk, or just write, in a journal, or just do nothing, just lay down on the ground but be awake, and just relax. And those little things, and she's going to implement those routines in her day to take care of herself so she can start to manage her
Mhm.
anxieties. And I love that you schedule it in. And I think that's something that's
You
so
have
so
to.
important, because you will forget. Yeah, you have to.
Totally. But to me, that's what I want to do. That's my passion. I love doing all these different things. I have passions with the business babes and I have passions with the travel and I am building this little mini empire right now. So when I'm giving up my weekends at the club with my friends and I'm giving up all of this free time that everyone is looking for, I acknowledge that in 3 years when I hopefully have a family or whatever that time frame is for me, that I won't need to work this hard because I'm doing it now. That's what entrepreneurship is about. And I think you hit a point where you're just like, this is for me or this isn't. And it comes back to the time freedom. Like, same thing. If you need to wake up early, but you acknowledge that that's what's working for you right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that I heard this in a book. I read it actually in a book a couple of months ago, but it said that in entrepreneurship, you want to work and live in a certain way that a lot of people won't, for a short period of your life, to then live a certain way that most people will never get to for
Yeah.
a longer period of your life. So I completely agree that the hours, are busy and working, and then, you know, trying to work long days, and I can attest to that. I try to do, like I said, I work full time during the week, and then I spend my after hours, until with my daughter until she goes to sleep, and then from 7 to midnight, I'm working on this business. And I think that's just those are the kinds of things that you need to do to manage. And even
Mhm.
last night, going to my friend's house, I had a moment where I was like, okay, I can stay home and edit this podcast
Mhm.
and do this and do that. Or, I could go out with my friends. And I decided that, I'm going to go with my friends because I haven't done that in a long time. And I'm going
Yeah.
to take that time for my self-care and just to relax and unwind and have some fun. But
Mhm.
I think that, like, you're right, that entrepreneurship, it keeps you busy and it's a lot of work, and you will at some point, after all the hard work and the years you've put in, you do get to a place where you can get some time freedom. And that's it. That's exactly what I'm hoping for too. I think,
Mhm.
putting in the hours and then getting, be able to bank that. So in the future, you can start taking that time to relax and spend time on yourself and with your family.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, I it's funny. I had dinner with a friend last night that I've known since elementary school. We've been friends since we were like 10.
Wow.
And I've seen him once in the last 10 years, and it was last summer. And I kept thinking, like, why is that the case? And it was because I obviously have given myself to my career the last 10 years. And the time I do make for people is so select. Like, I know that sounds so bad, but if I'm giving up an evening with my family, or an evening with my business, or an evening with my close group of friends, it's because I'm being very intentional about that. And I'm not just saying yes to like dinners with everybody and coffees with everybody, because that's just not the place of my life that I'm in. And I think people get too scared to say no. They get too scared to put themselves in a position where they're not being a social butterfly. I'm fully okay with not being a social butterfly in my personal life, because I have this really, really small core group of friends that are my go-to. They know when I'm busy. They don't hold grudges. They keep trying. They keep understanding if I have to reschedule. And it is very hard to segregate that as an entrepreneur, because you want both. You want to be a successful entrepreneur and have a huge group of friends. And I don't know many successful entrepreneurs that have a massive group of friends. It's
Yeah.
just not possible. I mean, it is possible to have a big group of friends, but like your small circle is small because it's all you have time for in the beginning, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Naturally, before, building this business, found it really hard to manage a large group of friends. So I always stuck with like a small core, but close and intimate group of friends that, like you said, don't hold grudges, but are accepting and understanding. And I think that that's so important, to surround yourself with people that encourage you and inspire you and understand you and are there for you, and where it doesn't feel like you have to, you know like you said, you can't say no because you're too afraid
Exactly.
to deal with that. But yeah, I think that that's amazing what you've shared so far. I think that your mindset and just your positivity and the rawness and the realness of the world behind being an entrepreneur is so appreciated, and it's so inspiring. And I keep saying inspiring because I just everything you say, I just feel so encouraged by it and motivated in it. And I was actually, like I said, I talked to the cake mama last week, and she, has a lot of success in her industry and in her business. But what I didn't know, and having followed her for the last several years, is that she's been at this for 14 years.
Mm.
And I think that's the stuff that people don't see. And like, that entrepreneurs, it doesn't happen overnight, like you've mentioned. It takes
No.
long hours, long days, over a long period of time, and commitment and drive to get to where you need to go and where you want to go. And it's a long marathon, and it's a long-term game in order to keep going
Yeah.
and stay motivated. And yeah, and I absolutely love that. And I love that you have continued and you pivoted, and you're inspiring your clients and you're inspiring people listening to you. And I love following you on Instagram and seeing, your days and what you're doing. And I am also trying to implement the work from home challenge of dressing up for work at
Yes.
home every day, and it's made such a difference. I have to say, I did that this week.
Yeah.
Partly because I was recording all my episodes this week, but partly because, I just was like, if I just dress up and stop hanging out in my pajamas, like I'll feel more alert, more
Yeah.
open, more, productive. And it's such a difference just putting on different clothes. It's such a
Game
difference.
changer. It is a game changer, 100%. So my friend Amanda, who runs the Wolf Co., which is a marketing agency, she started it, and she would like post these like super cute outfits, and then I would look down and I'm just like, I don't look like that. So one day I made the promise to myself that I would go into my closet every day and wear something new. So my go-to outfit is like bicycle shorts and a baggy t-shirt, or like jeans and a t-shirt. Like I'm so casual. I have that West Coast laid back style. Like I'm never in heels unless I'm at an event. Like that's just not me.
Yeah.
But I said I have such a great wardrobe. Like I travel the world and I have these like cute dresses and these cute jumpers, and like why am I not wearing them? So I started to implement that into my daily routine, which then I noticed I started showing up on Instagram more because I was more confident in how I looked, and I wasn't like hair in a messy bun with like a hoodie on. And it literally changed the game for me. Like today I'm in sweats again because I've had a long day. But it is so important to show up a little bit differently for yourself is the key.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true. Dressing,
Mhm.
just even, yeah, like you said, wearing something different from your closet every day is so true. And I'm actually going to do that. I'm like you said, I have stuff that I've gotten from trips and stuff too, but they always just end up hanging there and I never end up wearing it. So
Exactly.
I'm actually going to try that this next week, actually, just wear,
Post
things
it
that
and tag me in it.
yeah, I will.
Good.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and thank you so much for inspiring me. And I know a lot of people listening will be inspired with you. And if you're interested, I'll tag Lauren on the blog show notes, as well as on Instagram, so you can follow along in her journey, and follow along in her daily posts where she shares everything inspiring and everything around her brand, and also just keeps you in check with how productive she is, and it makes you want to also be productive. And that's how I felt every time I see your daily list of things to do, and I'm like, oh gosh, like she's so productive, I need to be more productive. And then I instantly get off Instagram and start doing the work.
Oh, that is amazing. I need to record that snippet for my business coach. She's a productivity coach. And I swear, like, I must be the worst client ever because I have this like long list of things that I have to do for her. And none of it ever makes it into that list. And she's like, Lauren, like, when are you going to get this done? I'm like, I promise I'm being productive, but that just comes in different ways for everybody. So I'm going
Yeah.
to tell her you said that.
Yeah, for sure, you can let her know. But yeah, and yeah, do you want to share a little bit about your travel agency and your events company, and where can people find you?
Sure, sure. So Modern Collective is kind of like the umbrella of the company that I own. We are a event planning and retreat agency. So when I say that, people are like, okay, but what does that mean? So we help female entrepreneurs bring their dream retreats to life. So I've had so many clients who say like, I want to host a retreat in Bali, but blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't we take that but and just remove it? We can show you how to do that, how to monetize it, how to make the whole thing happen. We will go on site with you. We will execute. We literally will be your person to make this retreat come to life. And in explaining it like that, we've had a lot of clients realize, okay, retreats aren't just for big companies. They aren't just for people that have the six-figure budget. Like I actually can implement this into my business. And it's been so fun to watch them and support them through that journey. So
Yeah.
that's like the retreat and event planning side of things. And then there is the travel agency side. So that's actually officially rolling out this fall. And we are going to be a boutique travel agency, mostly servicing the retreat clients that we have to like book their flights and book all the travel. But we will be rolling out just like regular travel bookings later this year, which is so exciting because although COVID obviously has put a damper on travel, it is still one of the highest booking industries. I know that Europe, I think, just recorded their highest booking travel month in history with
Wow.
all the borders starting to open and things. So we need to crush some misconceptions about travel and just do it properly and chat with a professional about who can support you through that process. And I'm just excited to be able to do that. It's been on my bucket list for like 10 years now, and we finally checked it off.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations. And I'm
Thank
excited
you.
and I can't wait to host my own retreat with this
Yeah,
blog and definitely work with you and create that. And I can't wait.
thank you. I cannot wait for that day too. And thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Thanks for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to the end of this episode. I hope that you've enjoyed the inspiring story and the tips and the advice that Lauren had to share. And I hope you check her out on her Instagram at Modern Collective, and I'll tag that in the link to the show notes and to tag her on also on Instagram. So again, if you love this episode, if you love what you heard, I would love if you could share your review on Apple Podcasts to help us grow. And if you can like, share, and subscribe to us on all our social media accounts, as well as on the podcast platforms and YouTube. And again, you have the ability to catalyze your life from ordinary to extraordinary. You just need to know why, and what is your why, what is your motivation, what keeps you going in life, and how are you going to get there. And you can sign up to my newsletter list to get the 3 email challenge, and you will get started on understanding your why and making it happen. And all the steps are in those emails. And also, when you sign up to my newsletter, you will get early access to my workshops and to my course that's coming up soon. And if you have any questions, or if you want to nominate anybody to be on the podcast, please reach out to me. You can email me, or you can send me a direct message on Instagram. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.